Hey everyone, Brian Von VA here, back at it again with another set of D&D stories. This time we've got, what character have you made that broke the norms of what is usually expected? Mine is a wood elf arcane archer fighter with a beard. I explained to the other players that it was a genetic mutation that caused it, and they seemed quite fine with it. As a matter of fact, he's a rather new character and I play him to this day. You know, I wish that I could find time to watch the Wednesday streams, since those thumbnails make me think my character is now the norm. A Kenku rogue inquisitive that used his skills for the good side of the law, acting as a private investigator for the general population and an informant for the city guard. His intelligence was 18, wisdom was 15, and dexterity was 14. But only because of his racial dexterity bonus. He carried a signature arbalist crossbow, he was not trying to be sneaky with that thing, a suitcase similar to that of Newt's suitcase from the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, where he literally carried his office with him, and attached to the lid of this suitcase was his horn of silent alarm, which he would use to summon the city guard should the party do wrong. He doesn't act like a rogue in the terms of stalking in the shadows like other Kenku stereotypically do, but rather he takes a back row position in the open with his arbalist crossbow similar to a ranger, and uses his inquisitive eye from his inquisitive subclass to gain his sneak attack on the enemy's back row of combat without the need of flanking or tactics, depending solely on his careful aim. In The Dark Eye, I play what can be best described as a warrior cleric. He does god stuff, but also skull cave-in stuff. Ooh, I likey. Anyway, he follows the god of sleep, dreams, memory, silence, and death. As such, people don't expect him to talk a lot, but he does. He doesn't talk excessively by conventional means, of course, but compared to other members of his church, who sometimes take vows of silence, he talks a lot. Then again, someone has to do the talking, and the smartest party member besides my character once had the idea to tell the local newspaper in a landlocked city that Vikings had attacked and that they had carried their invisible longboats over land to do so. That dude almost started a race war in that city, even though there was one brewing already. I have a goblin bard who is a wannabe Death Rush player, which is a game that is one part football, one part drunk bar fight, and one part cage match. There are two teams and all the spectators are on the field. The spectators are able to help whoever they like, which is why a team's bard is crucial. My bard is not musically gifted at all. He's just really good at starting chants and hyping people up. Sorry if I pronounced this wrong, but Yitzelf, elf, certified good boy and lawful good rogue. He doesn't steal from innocents and faces his problems when they show up. He's also cheerful and nice and has both his good parents alive and well. He mostly uses deception and negotiation to avoid conflict because he's a bit of a pacifist rather than a murder hobo. He learned how to fight once that he went into a forest to play with animals and saw some orcs bantering about taking down his village. Using the animals, using the environment, and pretending to be a god, he fended them off and saved his village. He oftentimes feels compassion for his enemies, so he's rather satisfied with a good bonk in the head, even though he's not very strong, for a knockout rather than killing people. Here's another one I don't want to pronounce wrong, but I believe it is Sagrantino, elf, asexual bard, and wandering musician, playing with his violin and rapier. Not much is known about his past because he doesn't tell much. What is known, though, is that he was going to be married off to an extremely horny noblewoman, and he rejected his fate and started on his new wandering and simple life. Both families were pissed, and they cursed him. They unknowingly rolled a 1, and now every instrument he plays sounds really annoying. His violin sounds like a saxophone, and when he plays pianos, they sound like organs. People fall in love with him sometimes, and he doesn't have the balls to say no and just leads them on for fear of actually getting an even worse curse put on him. So he's being chased by Kirito wannabes and horny barmaids. In his travels, his bow for his violin broke, so he plays with his rapier and people seem to love it. I haven't been able to play them because in the months of searching for a party, nobody accepted my characters, so I guess they could have been more fleshed out if I played them with someone. I'm new to the game, and I really like the stories I've heard of this game, and I'd like to play a campaign. Well, best of luck to you. I made a dragonborn blood cleric, I think, that used a crossbow and was blind. Interesting. They had set out on a mission before they met the party to kill a powerful demon. The demon, having been almost killed by the dragonborn, tricked them and gouged out their eyes. And ever since, they have been blind. Ended up one-shotting a troll at level 1 with a grapple check and a strength check. Both succeeded. Then they ended up reading a book that the entire party failed to read. Sister Clementine is the kind and compassionate pastor of the town's chapel. She is an advocate of the Alti, the angel of charity, and she dedicates every fiber of her being to improving the livelihood of those around her, feeding and sheltering the poor and needy. To the followers of Alti, there is no sin more capital than greed. And those whose souls suffer from the taint of greed cannot be saved except by being sent to Alti's embrace to be absolved in death. While she normally abhors violence, Clementine will take up the sword to defend the weak and punish the wicked, driven by righteous fervor and protected by her unshakable faith. Class? Barbarian. Path of the Zealot. Background? Acolyte. Nice. An overly happy and excitable half-orc cleric. Her backstory was that she lost her mother to a raid not long ago and couldn't do anything to help. So she decided that was never going to happen again. She took up training in a monastery, but being a big, scary half-orc, was given the bare minimum of training and was told, "Okay, you're all ready to save the people now. Goodbye. Bye-bye, toodles." Thus, she was unceremoniously dumped out. Despite the tragedy, she has a positive outlook on life and is more or less a big old butterball. But I dumped a ton into Intimidate in hopes that one day I'd be able to pull that skill out and surprise the party. I've had so many people suggest she be a paladin or a barbarian, you know, the typical half-orc, I smash now classes, especially for 5e. So here's the thing. I personally think having your healing cleric not die is far more useful, as you can stabilize the rest of your party. And I agree. Zali Starbright, the Scottish High Elf Bard. She's far more rough and tumble than your typical high elf, and speaks in a very thick Scottish accent that makes her vicious mockery hilarious to imagine. The reason behind this is that her grandfather saved the patriarch of a neighboring dwarf clan many years ago, and the two clans remain friends to this day, often intermingling, and some of their traditions rubbed off on each other, along with their accent apparently. She's really fun to play, and no, she does not play the bagpipes. On a one-shot, I played a half-elf rogue whose parents were still alive and well. He was quite rich from the family and lived in a mansion bought by his parents. His backstory was not at all edgy, nor was it howls at the moon every midnight because of all the tragedies he's endured. He was actually cheerful and well-mannered. The reason he became a rogue was due to his upbringing. He was being tailored to be a true gentleman. He didn't like the constant pampering of his parents and all the servants around him. He ended up sneaking out at night to find friends and see what was out there. Eventually, he met a young girl, around his age then, who was stealing from the rich to give to the poor. He offered to freely give some of his parents' money to the poor if it'll make her happy, but she had more at stake when it comes to being what she is. So, to impress her, he decided to become a rogue in secret from his parents. My bards, Envoy and Bane. Envoy was a happy-go-lucky, not horny at all, wants to pet the cat person bard, who often ran off and came back with a bag of nature stuff, which had random grass, some sticks, and one time a dead bird her necromancer brother revived and used as a spy for a while. There was at one point where the party was trying to escape a town that sacrificed virgins, and I freaked out, but the party agreed no one would believe the bard is a virgin. Bane was a brooding, pink-haired emo. I'll probably die, so why not? Bard cleric necromancer. His adoptive parents were still alive. He never knew his birth parents, but had no interest in knowing them. His adoptive parents loved him and even supported his change of religion to become a necromancer. I was told by a few friends that they expected him to want to find his birth mother, or would hate all things happy and sunshine. He did hate the sunshine, but that's mostly because it was the symbol of the deity that drove him to become a necromancer, but he never tried to shoot down anyone's joy. My main character is a human druid trying to hide his real identity. So when you first see him, the colorful two-tone green tunic, bright yellow cape, and loot strung onto his back would make you believe he's a bard. To maintain the deception, he has the charlatan background, meaning the druid was the best liar in the party. When he actually had to act like a bard, he had actor as a feat for performance checks. This worked so well that even when using druid magic, the rest of the party took a long time to figure it out, and the DM even intentionally tried to break the gimmick on occasion to no success. I initially wanted to make a regular half-orc fighter for a B-Day one-shot. I imagine that means birthday one-shot. They had insane strength, dex, and con rolls, all like above, 14, but awful charisma and wisdom, like 5. So after a minute thinking about what I wanted to make out of those rolls, I came up with something. After confirming the concept with my DM, we all came together for the one-shot. Everyone else comes in with their standards. We have a stereotype horny bard player, a pair who like making spell-thinging gods, a kind cleric/tanky healer guy, and me, the wild card. I made a necromancy wizard named Bobbery Billiams of 1 million years, who must be called as such. He must be called as such. He was an axe that raised zombies to use him to attack. However, he acted like he was the zombie himself, and used spells like Find Familiar to summon little undead birds to see through. The one-shot continued into a small 9 to 10 long campaign, and Bobbery Billiams of 1 million years, who must be called as such, soon grew to be the tank of the party, since he would raise zombies to throw him around and rarely ever lost HP, since people don't tend to attack weapons. He actually went through a small arc where he started to let others control him, and in the final combat, started sacrificing his zombies he would raise as cover for downed party members. He was an amazing member of the party. Hey everybody, hope you liked today's video, and if you did, consider leaving us a like, giving us a big old subscribe, and checking out everything that do with MrRipper, aka his Twitter, Discord, and r/MrRipper. On r/MrRipper, you can submit your own stories in an existing thread, or be a hero and make one of your own, because you never know if we're going to read it in a vid or live on stream. And you see that big face on screen, by the way? That's me, Brian Von VA, one of 2 narrators here. I'm a voice actor, and I'd appreciate it if you came by my channel, where you can find gaming streams, lots of memes, voice actor podcasts, challenges, and a host of positivity too, because that's all I'm about, and that's only if you're interested. With that said, I hope that everyone is staying safe, as I know times are rough, but remember one thing. No matter who you are, what you do, what you believe in, trust me, you are loved, appreciated, and more so, you're wanted in this world. So please, from me to you, stay safe, be happy, and we will see you next time.